His energy level was high, and the good news is Max is back.
Oh, Max is back.
I think it's a combination of that and a little bit more. Brock Bowers has that uncanny attitude about getting free and knowing how to get open.
It goes back to this simple maxim of everything. Pass rush helps pass coverage helps the pass rush.
Welcome to Raiders Roundtable, presented by America First Credit Union. I'm JT. That's the Hall of Famer, Eric Allen, and we had a great crowd at Allegiant. You had the Hall of Fame helmet. We were at the torch, and it was the game didn't turn out that way. We're going to dive into it, but shout out to Raider Nation who filled the place. They wore black. It was a great crowd Monday night.
The NFL, for the first couple of weeks, has done it right. They've had the Super Bowl rematch and, of course, the great rivalry between the Chargers and the Raiders. Man, that torch was lit. It was hopping. Just unbelievable. The crowd showed up. Just so many great Raider fans from the last couple years. Some of the guys who came into the game was their first time ever, so just unbelievable crowd.
A very disappointing loss. The offense didn't have a big game at all. The defense tried to keep the Raiders in it. As you take a look at it here, the Chargers struggled on offense. They had some chunk plays.
Yep, they did.
The key to this game, as always in the NFL, is the turnovers. Battle. 3 interceptions for Geno Smith. He had a really rough night. I thought that was the key to the game.
That was the key to the game. The turnovers, obviously, when you have two teams, that are trying to do the same things, be physical, run the football, take shots. It all comes down to turnovers. And if you look at the stats one more time, look at the rushing yards. We only gave up 81 yards rush. I think that's really important. Last year, in the beginning of the season, we talked so much about the lack of this football team being able to stop the run. They have done a really good job the first 2 weeks to stop the run. It's just limiting those big plays, and the turnovers are the key to getting this football team to the point where I think the Chargers are right now. I think the Chargers are where the Chargers need to be. They have great coaching, able to take advantage of some situational football. Yesterday, when you saw some of those, big play shots, we're going to get there. And I think we're going to get there a little sooner than maybe people will think. I just think we weren't consistent and didn't play complimentary football yesterday, JT.
Yeah, Lincoln Kennedy is going to join us later on in the show, but the offensive line struggled. But Jim Harbaugh gave the Raiders an opportunity late in this game. He tried to run a stretch run on 4th down. They fumbled the ball late in the game. The Raiders continued to have an opportunity to get back in this game. As we take a look at this here, look at this play.
The edges, and you see the linebackers running downhill. That's kind of what you want to see with this football team. That was a great play, opportunity for us to kind of get back into the football game. And there were several points like, did you see Jim very disappointed that play didn't work? I'm not sure why you're trying to go side to side. Great job by our edge rushers kind of keeping that edge. The corner comes off and makes a big play, shows you that, hey, we're in the football game. And maybe the last couple years when, one part of the team kind of starts to struggle, it just becomes like domino effect. I didn't see that yesterday. I thought the defense really gave us opportunities to stay in the game. That's really encouraging to see. And at the end of the season, when we look at this loss, I think this is one of the top teams in the AFC, and we're going to be able to face them again. And we're going to have to find a way to get these guys. It was funny, the stat, this was the 13th time that Harbaugh and Coach Pete met, and it was 6-6. So, maybe the 14th time it'll be 7-7. I just really encouraged by the fight of the defense, and we know that Geno and the offense didn't really play up to par.
I'm surprised Harbaugh didn't punt there. Punt and play defense. Their defense has been dominant, but it was just unfortunate that the offensive line and Geno couldn't get the game going to make it really close. DJ Glaze, here's what he said after the game.
Those are the moments we just really have to lock in and capitalize. Like you said, it's frustrating because we know we can do it. We've seen each other do it, time and time again. But at the end of the day, we just got to capitalize, and that's like I said, that's frustrating that we get close and we can't finish it off.
Let's not forget he's a young player, too.
Yes, he is.
Okay, that's a young right tackle, a very important position opposite of Colt Miller at left tackle. And the offensive line, the thing that concerns me the most is they're getting pushed back in the running game. Pass protection was a problem for Geno, but I think they got to wake up now, and they got to really start running the ball and blocking more physical and more intense. We haven't seen that just yet.
That's the point. And, later on we talk to Link, I think get a better understanding of what you see as far as toughness and the ability to be able to overcome some of these deficiencies we're seeing in the offensive line. And for the second week in a row, Geno had some shots, some opportunity to throw the ball down the field. But you're right. I think the running game is key here. I mean, both football teams want to run the football, be successful in that capacity. So now you're kind of dictating terms to the defense. We weren't running the ball, yesterday. We couldn't get a point where we can kind of just, hey, we're going to get a first down by running the football, stick the ball in the running back's belly, easiest thing to do. So there's some adjustments we need to figure out to get that running game going, and we need to have one of those linemen need to be that nasty guy.
Yeah, got to find that.
Yeah, got to find that.
Here's the quarterback last night at the podium.
This game's all about learning from your experiences, and this is a game, again, I've had similar games in the past where things, the ball is bounced, in an unfortunate way, or, decisions haven't, I make the best decision on a given play or the best throw. That's a part of the game, but you can never just say you can flush it. You got to learn from it. And so, I'm going to be super hard on myself, extremely hard on myself, because that's all I know. I'm going to get better this week. I'm going to find ways to get better from this film, and we'll be better as a team as well.
All right, let's spend a moment on this.
Yeah.
We know him. We've met him a few times. We've interviewed him. The fans who don't, this guy's a leader. He owned it. He went right to the podium and wanted to get this over with and talk about it's on him.
Yeah.
You got to have that. He's had games like this before, and the reason he's the quarterback of the Silver and Black with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly is he could bounce back. He's supposed to bounce back after something like this.
You have to. Taking accountability is the most important thing from a player standpoint. You did that. What's encouraging is he has two people in his corner, being Chip and Coach Pete, who are going to understand and been through these things before. So they're going to kind of help him through this process. And what I mean help him say, like, you know what, maybe we need to get the pocket moving. So I'll call this play here, and we can do something similar to what we did, when we're successful in the past. So that's how Chip is going to approach it. And Pete's going to be super positive. He's going to, hey, man, you didn't play well. Here's the things you got to change, but I'm with you. I know you can overcome these things. So with himself, he has two other people in his, in his corner who are going to be able to help him come out of this, and you don't want to flush these things. It's just like if you're a corner, you give up a touchdown the first play of the game. Everyone's on you. You can't just flush it. You have to learn from that process and kind of understand why they were able to do that. So that's kind of what he's going to do. He's going to go through that process today, and by tomorrow, he's going to be on to Washington and be able to kind of learn from these mistakes. And hopefully Chip and Coach Pete are going to give him opportunities to come back and make big plays for this football team.
Another strong performance by Jacoby Myers. Here's what he said after the game.
They just kept everything in front, honestly. So made us sustain long drives, and we didn't necessarily finish them well or protect the ball like we should have. But like I said, we're going to see them again.
Interesting what he said. They kept everything in front. Walk us through that, because they're really good on the back end. Derwin James, their safeties are big. They don't let you get over the top. And two of the interceptions, one was in the end zone and one was at the 1 yard line, looked like they were ready for that.
They were going to force this football team, based on what they saw in week one, they were going to force our Raiders into dinking and dunking and having 20-play drives. And that's what they did yesterday. They were very consistent, methodical in what they were doing, playing a lot of coverage where they were playing cover 2, cover 4, where the receivers had to find ways to just run those routes and have those middle type of routes open. But the Chargers did a really good job of staying sticky on the outside, playing in cover 2. So those corners were not dropping back down deep. They were really covering the outside and the flats, those safeties over top. And then they had that safety or that middle linebacker running down the middle of the football field. They were not going to allow this Raiders football team having chunk plays like we did in week one. It's just a great job of their defense.
Yeah, they
were on point and really focused and dialed in on what they were trying to accomplish.
When we come back, Paul Gutierrez will join us in-house from Raiders.com. And the great Lincoln Kennedy as the Raiders get set to head to D.C. to take on the Commanders.
This is not a blue moon. Now it is. Now it's not. Now it is. Now it's not. Now it is. Now it's not. Now it is. A Valencia orange makes a blue moon, and everything a little brighter.
The power of we is all for one. It's all for you. It's always there for you. It completes your circle. It says you've got a team even when you're out there alone. And with Intermountain Health in your circle, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
At Cox, we're always a step ahead. There you go. I'll show you. Like, before your basement became Movie Central, we made sure you'd have strong Wi-Fi, even down here. And you can rest easy knowing the price of your plan won't go up for 3 years. Guaranteed. See? He's looking out for you. And so are we, with advanced security that blocks threats on your network. Good boy. Whatever the future brings, Cox will keep you a step ahead. Oh.
Raiders Roundtable is brought to you by America First Credit Union, the official credit union of the Las Vegas Raiders. Coors Light, choose chill, an official beer of Raider Nation. Celebrate responsibly. 2025 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Hey, welcome back to Raiders Roundtable. I'm Paul Gutierrez here with my 3 takeaways from Monday night's sobering loss to the Chargers. Takeaway number 1, what worked for Geno Smith in New England actually hurt him against the Chargers. That is throwing into tight windows and into double coverage. Either Geno was a split second slower in delivering his throws against the Chargers, or the Chargers DBs are a split second faster than their Patriots counterparts. Because after his statement game in his Raiders debut at New England, Geno authored a game he'd rather forget in his Las Vegas premiere. A career-high tying 3 interceptions, including on the first play of the game, which definitely set the tone, and his lowest passer rating in more than a decade. Ouch. This wasn't what Geno had in mind for his first game in Allegiant Stadium in front of a raucous crowd, but while each NFL game is a season unto itself, the silver lining in this black cloud is that it was only week 2. And while many players insist they flush such experiences before moving on to the next, he says he says he needs to learn from it. And he'll push himself hard in a short week before another cross-country trip. And really, that's more than admirable. Number 2, Ashton Jeanty is being slowly worked into the NFL life. Yes, Ashton was the number 6 overall pick, and sure, you'd be thrilled with a pair of 100-yard rushing games in his first 2 NFL appearances, but he's flashed. There was that truck stick of poor Alohi Gilman, and then he had that spin move he threw on Derwin James. Those were a sign of things to come. But as Pete Carroll intimated, Ashton is being brought along, dare I say, slowly. Even as he averaged close to 4 yards a carry against the Chargers on his 11 attempts. Still, it was strange to see him on the sideline, replaced by Zamir White on 3rd and 1 late in the first half, and by Dylan Laube on the Raiders' final first half possession. Ashton did get a post-game pep talk from Marshawn Lynch at his locker, so he's got that going for him, which is nice. Number 3, Max Crosby needs to raise havoc rushing the passer, not dropping back into coverage, right? I mean, it was a bit jarring to see Max, one of the most feared edge rushers in the league, drop back into coverage late in the game. It kind of reminded me of seeing Tommy Kelly do the same thing many, many moons ago. But Max insisted he was fine with it, especially if it helps the defense as a whole. And while he did have 5 tackles and he was credited with a tackle for a loss against the Chargers, the Raiders' pass rush as a whole seemed neutralized, while Justin Herbert was back there counting up to 5 Mississippis in the pocket. And that's when he wasn't leading the Chargers with 31 rushing yards. Strange. Max, though, he did have a huge hit that appeared to cause a fumble late, but going against Trey Pipkins III instead of Joe Alt, you would have thought the Raiders would have gotten more pressure on Herbert. For more on Monday night's game and how pep talks were as needed in the Raiders locker room as they were welcomed, check out my column on Raiders.com.
In our world, it's go, go, go. And the all-electric Ford Mustang Mach-E SUV helps keep us on track. With plenty of available cargo space and with the convenience of available hands-free highway driving with Ford Blue Cruise, the Mustang Mach-E is the kind of EV we want and the kind of SUV we need. Federal tax credit is ending soon. Lease by September 30th, 2025 to secure a lower payment on a 2025 Mustang Mach-E SUV.
Yamava Resort and Casino at San Manuel. You in?
And a blue moon.
Wow, that is a delicious looking orange slice.
Thank you. That's actually my son's slice. Proud of you, son.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm sorry, this is a slice of your son?
Look, it's an honor to be chosen for a blue moon.
Well, if it's an honor.
Yeah.
No! Just kidding.
That was a really good one.
The larger one is the dad.
Nothing outshines a blue moon.
His energy level was high, and the good news is Max is back.
Oh, Max is back.
I think it's a combination of that and a little bit more. Brock Bowers has that uncanny attitude about getting free and knowing how to get open.
It goes back to this simple maxim of everything. Pass rush helps pass coverage. Pass coverage helps the pass rush.
Let's welcome in our teammate, the great Lincoln Kennedy, to Raiders Roundtable. And Link, it was just a rough night last night, especially for the offensive line. A disappointing performance. What'd you see when you looked at the tape after the game?
Well, I think to be fair, JT and EA, you got to give them a chance. This is the second game of the regular season. This offensive line has not played collectively together pretty much throughout training camp or preseason, with Kappa getting the start against the Chargers. JPJ was down, for this game. So this is a still brand new offensive line. But it's like we talked about, JT, before, and EA, you can see this. Right now, I can't give the nod to this team being a physical team, this offensive line being physical. They're still trying to find their way. And the pocket has been collapsing consistently around Geno. Last week, in the weekend New England game, he was able to get away with some big-time throws, but the Chargers weren't having it. So you credit that defense, which is a top-tier defense in the Chargers, and you credit the fact that this team, the Raiders, offensively is still learning each other.
Link, well, let's stay on the offensive line. What are some of the indicators that you see that will say this offensive line will get itself together in the next couple of weeks?
Well, you've got to have an attitude presence up front, EA. And I told JT this. I said, look, Richie Incognito's not walking through that door. Kelechi Osemele, is not walking through that door. You got to have, I had, Stephen Wisniewski and Kevin Gogan back in my day. These guys were snot blowers. They want to take your head off, of course, and that carried over to the rest of the offensive line. Right now, this offensive line is still learning itself. I'm expecting Dylan Parham to take some strides, but we won't really know what we have, guys, in my opinion, till after the first month of football. Right now, the collection size is 2 games.
And Lincoln, going back, Brock Bowers was a gamer. He played through an injury, no doubt about it. He wasn't at his best, but I didn't see a lot of separation from the receivers. And Eric and I talked about it, the route concepts and what they were trying to do. But that's not going to work if Geno doesn't have time in the pocket. And Geno tried to step up and move around a little bit, but he was running for his life throughout that game. How does the offensive line clean that up? Because they even left Ashton Genty in a few times to chip, and it didn't help.
Well, there are many times, guys, where I saw max protection, which I'm expecting. That's where they usually keep a tight end in on one side and a running back on the other and slide one way or the other depending on who's most dangerous. But the fact is that Geno Smith was under constant duress. There was not a clean pocket. Even when it looked like there was a clean pocket, he was still throwing off of his back foot or having to make adjustments in the pocket to complete the throw. So it wasn't a clean pocket. What's going to have to happen is that the center and the guards control the depth of the pocket. They control the inside presence. And where you watch Geno Smith on these highlights set up, you see how close he is to that line of scrimmage, to that offensive line that's getting pushed back. So they've got to keep a cleaner pocket. And Geno's got to find his way. He cannot be accurate if he's constantly looking around him, trying to figure out where he can throw this ball from.
Yeah. As a player, you have those games where you like to forget, but you never do because you learn from those mistakes. I thought Geno was just a little bit off, even from the beginning of the game yesterday. What do you think you can contribute that to?
Well, start off with the interception. You start off a game where you're prepared, you're hyped up. It's a Monday night game, you're the last game playing, everything's ready to go, and bam, you turn over the football. That takes all the air out of your sail. It doesn't matter who you are, and it's hard to rebound. And you give the Chargers credit because they made adjustments coming into the saying, look, Ashton Genty's not going to beat us. We're going to load the box with this defense to bring an extra man that we know you're going to have bring in a wide receiver or somebody to block that extra man in the box, which leaves another man on the line of scrimmage playing that Tampa too. So it becomes often disadvantageous to try to run the football into those metal walls that you see from the Chargers.
Jacoby Myers has played well, Lincoln, the first couple of games. And I think that's going to be imperative as the Raiders travel to the nation's capital. He's proving to be the number one go-to guy as these young receivers find their role going forward.
Well, he's going to have to understand that teams are going to play him a lot more physical, like they did last night. The Chargers showed that they were going to be physical. They were challenged. And there was a couple times where there was some, obvious pass interference or, defensive touching contact that did not bode well for this young receiving core. Other times when they had open or had separation, you saw big plays out of the offense. They just have to find a way to be more consistent with it.
I thought Chip did a really good job of finding ways to get Jacoby open.
Yeah,
in that trips bunch formation, having be able to run those outstanding routes. I just think that this receiver has to find a way to get his maturity to kind of go over everyone else in that room. Because I just thought there was a lot of immaturity yesterday in some of those route runnings, but Jacoby sure stood out.
Well, in the two games, EA and JT, I've seen Geno Smith spread the ball around to a number of receivers. That bodes well moving forward for the offense. But the difficulty of scoring in the red zone, of putting it in and getting touchdowns, still continues to plague this team. And then because they don't have pure balance between running the football and throwing the football, it makes it often difficult to create those long drives, sustainable drives where you can get in, to the end zone. More importantly, the Raiders it's imperative for them to stay ahead of schedule, guys. You cannot go into this team right now is not ready or programmed to go in the third down, 7 or plus, and be able to get those first downs.
The Raiders' defensive line played well in the game. I couldn't believe that Jim Harbaugh ran that fourth down stretch run and gave the ball back to the Raiders.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there in the booth with Lincoln going, another gift, the fumble right after that.
Yeah.
The Raiders' defensive line gave the Raiders' offense, Lincoln, 2 opportunities to win the game.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't play well enough to win the game. We know that. But those late turnovers and the fourth down play that they went for, it gave the Raiders the ball back. And I think that's because of the push we're at least seeing from the D-line.
There's no doubt about it. The identity of this team is defense, and it has been that. And look, they played well enough to make the Chargers one-sided. Just the Chargers are able to make more big plays than the Raiders. That's the difference in the game last night.
There was great stance from the defense as a whole. The first play of the game, as we alluded to, you get an interception. The defense kind of in a bad situation, did a great job of only giving up 3. There were several other plays, third and shorts with the defensive line, and all those guys up front did an amazing job. What does it say that this football team, a little differently, didn't totally collapse with some of the offensive inconsistencies? The defense continued to kind of bow its back and play hard.
Well, yeah, you know this from our time together and you're playing in the league. Sometimes the other phase of the team needs to pick it up when one side is down. So in this case, the offense is down. The defense has got to find a way to keep them in it, and they did. They did for 4 quarters. They kept the team in it. They kept the game relatively close. And as JT mentioned, the stumbling mistakes by the Chargers kept the Raiders in an opportunity to make plays and make things. But this is the miscues of the unfortunate of the roughing the passer, not roughing the passer penalty, but coming down on the part when Herbert slid that time and you got the penalty on that. I mean, that was unfortunate. It kept a drive alive. But overall, this is the strength of this team, this defense. What I'm thinking, they just got to have more people stand up and be counted. Other than Max Crosby, there's got to be another star. There's got to be somebody else that comes out. The communication breakdowns we saw in the second level last night led to the long touchdown pass. There were still holes in the secondary. This is indicative of getting pressure on the front or from the front 4. Sometimes when it wasn't there, it looked like Herbert had all kinds of time to stand back there.
Yeah, the chunk plays were the killer.
Yeah, exactly.
The killer. This team only scored 20 points.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they scored 41. The
Right.
Raiders kept getting off the field, making mistakes, and the Chargers couldn't do anything. But when they did, Lincoln, it was those chunk plays. And I've been sitting in this studio for years saying, protect the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Protect the middle of the field. And it just seems like that's a soft cushion with certain concepts of the defense and the zone coverage, and that's something that's got to be fixed as the Raiders could be playing Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota, because I think those coordinators are seeing opportunities over the middle.
There's no doubt about it. And what this team has to be aware of, and EA can speak on this, especially being in the coverage side, is this team needs to be aware of they still need to grow on defensive side. You got linebackers, you got miscommunication. There's a lot of miscommunication that's going on, or non-communicating, when you see guys break wide open in the deep third part of the field. Something happened. Somebody wasn't where they were supposed to be.
Yeah, they did an amazing job yesterday of designing those situations to create those big plays.
Exactly.
I just thought the Chargers were on point. I think when we look back at this game, yes, it's a loss, and losing is terrible. But I think the Chargers are going to be, at the end of the season, one of the one or two best AFC football teams, and this is going to be a loss where we can learn from and hopefully be able to get them back. But those chunk plays, obviously, are the difference in the football game.
Yeah.
Herbert's playing at an all-time level for himself, and it's week 2. They already have what they want to be, and I think we're still in that building phase of what Pete wants from this football team, but we have to limit those big chunk plays. Got to get that guy on the ground, correctly?
You also got to be more consistently competitive. There are times where you see the Raiders challenge divisional opponents and can make it, but just not getting over the hump. And I think that last night, with all the things the Chargers did wrong to keep the Raiders in, you still had the chance to get over the hump. And that's why, to your words, E, the Raiders are in the Chargers are probably there. The Chargers are there. The Raiders are working their way there. They're not there yet.
Lincoln, last one. You've been in this situation before. Your great career. You got a short week. The other team, I don't know how they're getting 10 days off.
Right.
Don't get me going on that one. But Pete Carroll is outstanding at doing this. He's traveling east on a short week. That's what he's done. What's some benefits of having Pete Carroll here to get this team to put this loss behind them and be completely focused to go into D.C.?
Guys, an experienced coach is not making it up as he goes along. He's been here and done it before, so he has a theory of how things are going to be able to work, especially when he gauges this team. After watching the film today, however this day plays out for the team, most likely just be getting treatment and a very light day, a light workout or something like that. You're back at work tomorrow because the season goes on. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Thanks, Lincoln. Travel safe. We'll see you soon. The great Lincoln Kennedy.
Yeah, that's my homeboy.
That's
my homeboy.
I know that's your guy. When we come back, we'll take a look around the AFC West and talk about the game against the Commanders.
Let's see. String cheese. Ooh, soda.
Surprise! You have a brother.
Hi. Whoa. Why didn't you tell me before?
Well, we just got him.
For opening a new account at America First Credit Union.
Which, surprise number 2, you're moving out and living at America First.
Huh?
Get your money working. For a limited time, new members get a cash bonus when they open a checking account.
Yamava Resort and Casino at San Manuel. You in?
The all-electric 2025 Ford F-150 Lightning Flash Truck with an EPA estimated rating of 300 miles of all-electric range. See more with a 15.5-inch touchscreen and go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds with the extended range battery. The 2025 Ford F-150 Lightning is a Kelley Blue Book KBB.com Best Buy. Don't miss up to a $7,500 federal tax credit on select 2025 F-150 Lightning trucks. Ends September 30th.
The power of we is all for one. It's all for you. It's always there for you. It completes your circle. It says you've got a team even when you're out there alone. And with Intermountain Health in your circle, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
Raiders Roundtable is brought to you by America First Credit Union, the official credit union of the Las Vegas Raiders. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to take a look at the schedule coming up here. A lot just happened in the AFC West. Yes. Kansas City losing the Super Bowl rematch. Denver on that leverage play to the Colts losing. The Chargers were the only team, obviously, to win in the AFC West, and the Raiders are now 1-1 here.
Here we go.
Yeah, taking a look at this. This is what I expected about 1-1 when the schedule came out. You want to win all the games, but the Raiders are right there. The Chiefs at the bottom. That's a little bit different sitting in this studio.
And it looks good, too.
It
looks good. I like that. I like that look.
Well, you mentioned the Broncos are at the Chargers. That's a very interesting game because
big time.
Sean Payton's really upset by the way they gave that game to Indy. I expect the Broncos to try to bounce back, and we'll see what happens. If the Chargers win that game impressively and are able to move it on the Denver secondary, that's going to be a wake-up call for the league.
It really will be. And for the Chargers in that game against the Broncos next week, I think that's really going to be a really clear view of kind of how this division is going to shake out. Everyone's going to be chasing the Chargers, obviously, because they'll be 3-0. But I think you'll learn a lot about play calling, about what they're going to try and do, because they've been a kind of different football teams from week 1 to week 2. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that. But we got to take care of our business, JT, so we can get back in this race.
That's big. As we look at the Raiders' schedule coming up here, both the teams coming up have problems.
Yeah.
Okay, Jaden Daniels is day-to-day. So even if he plays, he might be limited. And the Bears have been in a lot of trouble. The Bears have struggled. The Colts, you're going up against Daniel Jones, and last year the Titans had the worst record in football.
They're obviously right here. You know, if defense continues to play well, these are all 4 games that we can come away with wins. I know we have to take them one at a time, but with Jaden being a little hampered by, his lower body injury, so he doesn't have maybe that explosiveness that he usually has when running the football. He's just a terrific football player. But I think when you start to look at it, all those quarterbacks that we're going to face in the next 4 weeks, we have opportunities to get after them. Remember, coming to this game, I think we have had 37 sacks. I think it's the second most consistent sacks in the game in the season for a football team. We're number 2. And I just think this defense is really playing at a really good level right now. I think Patrick Graham and these guys are going to continue to get after the quarterback. And as long as we can get these guys on the ground, gives us a chance to get a W.
That was a tough loss. The Raiders didn't play well. They have to play well as they go on the road. It's a short week around here. Pete Carroll will have them ready to go. He's got to have them ready to go as the Raiders travel to D.C. to take on the Commanders. Thanks for joining us on Raiders Roundtable. We'll see you next week.